What if I told you that the absolute best thing you can do for your struggling lawn this July is to, well, just completely ignore it?
Right. Just walk away,
Yeah.
which is, so hard to do.
It really is. I mean, picture the scene. You're standing in your driveway. The heat is just absolutely radiating off the pavement, right? And you are staring at your grass.
And it's not looking good.
No, it has totally lost that vibrant, lush green from the spring. It's looking a little patchy, mostly faded, maybe a little brown around the edges.
Yeah, the classic summer lawn struggle.
Exactly. And your natural instinct, because you care, is to step up and fix it. You head to the garage, you grab the heavy-duty fertilizer, you load up the weed killer, and you prepare to just intervene.
It is the ultimate homeowner instinct. I mean, you
Right.
see weakness in a system and you try to inject resources, right?
Yeah.
Food, water, chemical protection. You're basically trying to engineer your way out of the problem.
Right. But the reality is the very things you are doing to quote-unquote fix your lawn in the middle of a summer heat wave, they're the exact things causing it to collapse.
Completely backfiring.
So today we are taking a deep dive into a really fascinating philosophy from Lawn Pride of North Charlotte. They've put together this document called The Art of Seasonal Rest, Protecting Summer Turf.
Which is such a great title, honestly.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the counterintuitive biology of why doing significantly less during extreme summer heat is actually the ultimate secret to a thriving lawn.
Because the paradigm shift here is it's moving away from the idea that lawn care is this relentless year-round offensive campaign.
Right, like you always have to be doing something.
Exactly. But the biological reality of turf grass dictates that summer's entirely about defense. And to play defense properly, well, we have to look really closely at what is happening at a cellular level.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the core thesis here is basically that sometimes the absolute best treatment is knowing when not to treat.
Yes.
And to understand why we need to back off, we really have to figure out what the grass is actually experiencing right now. So take us down to the soil level.
Okay, sure.
When the temperature spikes into the upper 80s and 90s, especially with that humidity, what is physically happening to the plant?
Well, whether you are dealing with a cool season grass like tall fescue or a warm season grass like Bermuda, prolonged heat triggers a massive biological shift.
Like a panic response.
Literally,
Mm.
the plant hits a physiological panic button and enters survival mode. It just completely stops prioritizing growth.
Wow.
Yeah. Every ounce of its cellular energy is shifted away from producing new blades, and it's redirected towards simply staying alive.
So the visible wilting we see, that drooping, tired look, that isn't just the plant being lazy or whatever.
No, not at all.
That's a mechanical failure happening inside the leaf.
Yes, exactly. And the mechanical failure comes down to something called turgor pressure.
Turgor pressure, okay.
Right. Think of the cells inside a blade of grass like millions of microscopic water balloons.
Oh, the water balloons, I can picture that.
When the soil is moist and temperatures are moderate, those balloons are pumped full of water. They push against the cell walls, and that internal pressure, that turgor pressure, it acts as the plant skeleton.
Oh, interesting. So it's what keeps the grass blades standing straight up?
You got it.
Ah, so when the heat spikes, the plant is losing moisture through its leaves faster than the roots can actually pull it from the ground, right?
Precisely. And so those little cellular water balloons, they just start to deflate.
They deflate, the internal skeleton collapses, and the grass physically wilts.
And to stop that rapid moisture loss, the plant does something pretty desperate. It closes its stomata.
Stomata, those are the microscopic pores, right, on the surface of the leaf.
Yeah, the ones that let carbon dioxide in and oxygen out. But closing those doors to save water comes with a massive penalty. It brings photosynthesis to a grinding halt.
Wait, really? It just stops making food?
Completely stops. The plant is no longer making food. Root growth doesn't just slow down, it totally shuts down.
Wow. So if the stomata are closed and it's not making food, it's essentially holding its breath just to survive the heat.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
I mean, wait, so it's essentially like forcing a marathon runner to sprint while inside a sauna?
Yes.
What?
Exactly like that. The runner is already at their absolute physical limit, just trying not to pass out from the ambient temperature.
Right, they're just trying to survive.
Yeah, their body's redirecting all its blood flow just to cool down.
And if you walk up to that runner in the sauna and strap a heavy backpack on them, they aren't going to get stronger. They are going to collapse.
They're going down.
Adding any unnecessary stress to the grass right now pushes the plant completely over the edge, Which I guess brings us to the first major trap homeowners fall into when they see that struggling lawn. The fertilizer trap.
It's such a common mistake
Yeah.
because the logic seems sound on the surface right.
Mm.
If the plant is starving and holding its breath, you naturally want to feed it.
Right. But wait, isn't fertilizer basically plant food? If the grass is struggling, why would we starve it? Like, if the roots are shut down and the plant is dormant, couldn't I just use a liquid foliar fertilizer?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. If the soil's the problem, why not bypass the roots entirely, spray the leaves, and give the plant the nutrients it needs to push out new green growth?
What's fascinating here is that this is a very common approach,
Hmm.
but it fundamentally misunderstands what fertilizer actually does to a plant's hormonal signaling.
Okay.
See, fertilizer is not comfort food. It doesn't nurture a struggling plant. It acts way more like a massive dose of adrenaline.
Adrenaline, so it forces it.
Exactly. It chemically forces growth. If we go back to your marathon runner in the sauna,
Mm.
applying fertilizer, even a foliar spray, is like forcing that dehydrated runner to chug a triple espresso.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that sounds terrible. So it's demanding that the plant get back to work when it physically cannot support that work.
You are chemically signaling the grass to push out new green blades. But remember, the root system is shut down to conserve energy.
Right.
So if you force the top of the plant to grow, those new blades drastically increase the plant's overall surface area. And more surface area means, well, much higher water requirements.
Ah. So you are forcing the top of the plant to demand water that the bottom of the plant is completely incapable of providing. It's an energy crisis.
A total energy crisis. It leads to incredibly fast dehydration. It weakens the entire structural integrity of the grass, which makes it highly vulnerable to fungal diseases.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the forced growth is only half the problem, actually. We also have to look at the actual chemistry of the fertilizer itself, especially standard granular fertilizers.
Right, because the source material dives deep into this, specifically warning against something called fertilizer burn.
Yes, fertilizer burns is brutal.
Let's look at the mechanics there, because standard nitrogen fertilizers contain salts. And we aren't talking about, like, table salt here, obviously, but chemical salts used as the delivery system for the nitrogen.
Exactly. And those chemical salts manipulate water in a very dangerous way during a heat wave. So we have to talk about osmotic gradients.
Okay, take us back to high school biology.
Right. So in biology, water naturally moves across a cellular membrane toward the area with a higher concentration of solutes, or salts. That process is called osmosis.
So in the spring, the grass plant is actively building up sugars and natural salts inside its roots.
Yep.
And that makes the inside of the root saltier than the wet soil outside, so the water naturally flows into the plant.
That is the natural osmotic gradient working perfectly. Now consider a lawn in late July.
Okay, it's hot.
The temperatures are soaring.
Yeah.
Soil moisture is highly inconsistent. It might be bone dry for weeks straight.
Right.
The plant is barely hanging on to its internal moisture.
Hmm.
And then you walk out with a spreader and drop concentrated nitrogen salts all over the topsoil.
Oh, I see it. You've suddenly made the soil significantly saltier than the inside of the plant's roots.
You completely reverse the natural flow. Because water always seeks to dilute the highest concentration salt, the moisture inside the plant's roots is literally pulled out of the roots, through the membrane and back into the soil,
Wait, really? We are desiccating the plant from the outside in.
literally sucking the water out of it. You chemically dehydrate the tissue of the leaf.
Wow.
And the visual result is what we call fertilizer burn. You'll see these harsh brown streaks across the lawn right where the spreader passed, literally burned leaf blades.
That is wild.
And that kind of cellular damage, it doesn't just bounce back after a quick thunderstorm. It can take months for the root system to repair that level of osmotic shock.
And I know people listening might think, okay, well, I'll just be smart and use a slow-release organic fertilizer that won't burn the lawn, right?
You'd think so, but no.
Yeah, the source is really clear on that, too. Even slow-release fertilizers are a ticking time bomb in July. Because slow-release granules require active microbial life in the soil and a growing plant to break down and be absorbed properly.
Exactly. And if the grass isn't actively growing, that fertilizer just sits there.
Just sitting on the surface, baking in the sun, slowly building up salt concentrations, basically waiting to cause problems the moment the environment shifts.
You're just stockpiling chemical stressors on top of a dormant organism at that point.
Yeah.
The safest play, really, is complete nutritional abstinence until the ambient soil temperatures drop in the late summer or early fall.
Okay, but if we step away from the fertilizer spreader, We've run into a domino effect.
How so?
Well, we can't feed the grass to make it thick. The grass is thinning out because it's dormant, and, nature abhors a vacuum.
The weeds.
The weeds. If the turf grass isn't actively defending its territory, weeds are going to see an opening and start invading.
They absolutely will.
Which puts us in a terrible dilemma. We want to protect the grass from being overrun, which usually means reaching for the weed killer.
And this introduces the second form of chemical stress, metabolic disruption via herbicides. And I'll tell you, this is where the philosophy of knowing when not to treat faces its biggest psychological test for a lot of homeowners.
Because weeds are just such a visible eyesore.
They really are. Nobody likes looking at them.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. We have to look at how weed killers actually function on a biological level. Because I always assumed herbicides were basically just poison. You spray it, it's toxic, the weed dies.
It's a common misconception.
But the science is far more insidious than that.
Far more. Most common post-emergent broadleaf herbicides, they don't actually poison the plant in the traditional sense.
They don't.
No, they're often formulated using synthetic auxins.
Auxins?
Yes. Auxins are natural plant hormones that regulate cell growth and elongation.
Okay, so when you spray a dandelion with weed killer, you aren't poisoning it. You are flooding its system with massive amounts of synthetic growth hormones. It's like, I don't know, it's like uploading a malware virus to a computer that forces the CPU to just run at 100% capacity until it melts.
And it is a brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The synthetic auxins completely scramble the weed's internal signaling.
Wow.
The plant cells are instructed to elongate and divide so rapidly that it literally outgrows its own life support system.
That's terrifying and amazing.
Right. The cell walls rupture, the nutrient transport tissues twist and collapse, and the weed essentially grows itself to death in a matter of days.
That is fascinating. But applying weed killer in a heat wave, to me, it's like using a flamethrower to kill a spider.
Ah, right.
Sure, the spider is gone, but you've burned down the entire house.
Exactly. Because here's the catch. Grass is also a plant.
Right.
And while selective herbicides are formulated to target broadleaf weeds, the turf grass is never completely immune.
So it still feels it.
Oh, turf grass absolutely still absorbs the chemical. It still experiences the hormonal disruption. The difference is that a healthy turfgrass plant has the specific metabolic pathways required to process and break down that synthetic auxin before it causes fatal structural damage.
Okay, so it processes the malware.
Yes. It metabolizes the chemical, recovers, and moves on.
But metabolizing a complex chemical takes energy.
Tremendous amounts of energy.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the critical temperature threshold outlined in the source material, 85 degrees Fahrenheit.
85 degrees.
When ambient temperatures rise above 85 degrees, the margin of error for chemical application just completely disappears.
Because the grass is already in survival mode from the heat. Its stomata are closed. Its turgor pressure is low. It doesn't have the spare cellular energy required to metabolize a malware virus right now.
Exactly. If you apply a post-emergent herbicide above 85 degrees, the turf grass simply cannot handle the compounding stress.
It's just too much.
The metabolic effort required to process the herbicide, on top of the heat stress, it will just push the turf grass over the edge. You're going to see severe leaf burn, widespread yellowing, and massive drought stress, especially for cool season varieties like fescue.
You are essentially demanding that a patient on life support jump up and run a marathon.
Exactly.
The source material actually states it perfectly. They say, applying herbicides during periods of extreme heat can cause more damage to the lawn than the weeds themselves.
Which brings us to the core philosophy of Lawn Pride of North Charlotte. Their mantra is, protect the lawn first, eliminate the weeds second.
Protect first, eliminate second. I love that. It's a complete shift in priorities, but it requires a certain level of acceptance, doesn't it?
A lot of acceptance.
You might walk outside in August, see some crabgrass or clover popping up, and you have to consciously tell yourself that tolerating those weeds is a strategic choice. It is not a failure of lawn care.
It is an exercise in restraint. You have to remember, the weeds are temporary. A few weeds are vastly less damaging to the long-term health of your soil and your turf than a lawn that has been chemically injured by a poorly timed herbicide application.
Right. You just have to wait it out.
Once the temperatures finally moderate in the early fall, the grass wakes up, its metabolism speeds up, and you can safely target those weeds without risking unnecessary collateral damage to the turf.
Okay, I hear you, the listener, right now. You're following the science, you understand the turgor pressure and the metabolic stress, but you're probably thinking, okay, no fertilizer, no weed killer. Do I just sit inside in the air conditioning and do absolutely nothing while my yard looks terrible?
Well, doing less chemically doesn't mean doing nothing physically.
Okay, good.
We're simply shifting our focus from pushing aggressive growth to proactively supporting the plant's survival mechanisms. We are playing a supportive defense.
Okay, let's get into those actionable steps then. The proactive summer care protocol. Let's start with watering. The target outline in the source is exactly 1 inch of water per week, right? Including rainfall.
Correct. 1 inch.
But the mechanics of how we deliver that water matter just as much as the amount, don't they?
The delivery is everything, really, because many people fall into the trap of light daily watering. They go out every evening and just miss the top layer of the soil for 10 minutes.
Yeah, which feels like you're helping, but if you water lightly every day, the grassroots have literally no incentive to grow deep. They just hang out right at the surface, waiting for their daily sip of moisture.
Exactly. And the top half-inch of soil is the absolute hottest, driest place for a root to be during a heat wave. It evaporates instantly.
Right.
You want deep, resilient roots. And to get deep roots, you have to force them to chase the water down into the cooler soil profile.
So how do we do that?
You achieve this by watering deeply and infrequently. So 2 to 3 times a week, putting down enough volume to penetrate inches into the dirt.
That makes total sense. Now, timing is also a massive factor here. I always assumed watering at night was best because the sun is down, so you don't lose anything to evaporation. But the source specifically says the golden window is early morning, between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m.
Yes. Watering at night actually creates a perfect storm for fungal pathogens.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Fungal spores require extended periods of leaf wetness to germinate and penetrate the plant tissue. If you water at 8:00 p.m., that grass blade remains damp for 10 to 12 straight hours in the humid summer air.
Ew.
Right. You are essentially building an incubator for turf disease.
So by watering between 4 a.m. and 8:00 a.m., you get the benefit of cool soil temperatures for maximum absorption. But as soon as the sun comes up, it dries off the leaf canopy. You break the disease cycle before it can even start.
Exactly. You provide the hydration the roots desperately need without providing the lingering humidity the fungi need.
Deep watering, early morning. Got it. Now let's talk about mowing. Because the instinct in the summer is often to drop the mower deck and cut the grass really short so you don't have to go out and mow as often in the blistering heat.
Please don't do that. That is a fatal error for summer turf. You actually need to do the exact opposite. Raise the mower height.
Keep it shaggy.
Keep it shaggy.
Think of taller grass blades as a physical umbrella for your soil. The taller the grass canopy, the more shade it casts down onto the dirt.
Right, providing its own shade.
And that shade dramatically reduces soil evaporation, keeping the ground temperatures cooler and locking in the moisture you just applied during your deep watering. Furthermore, scientifically, there is a direct correlation between the physical height of the grass blade and the depth of the root system.
The taller the top, the deeper the bottom. But the source highlights a golden rule about how much you are allowed to cut at once, too. The rule of 1/3.
The rule of 1/3, yes.
You should never remove more than 1/3 of the grass blade in a single mowing. Why is that specific ratio so critical? Well, you have to view the grass blade as the plant's solar panel.
Yeah, okay.
It is the primary engine for photosynthesis. If you go on vacation, the grass gets super tall, and you come back and aggressively chop off 50 or 60% of the blade, you plunge the plant into an immediate energy crisis.
Because you've just deleted half of its ability to make food while it's already heat stressed.
Exactly. The plant reacts by stopping root development completely. It funnels all its remaining reserves into trying to heal the massive surface wounds you just inflicted, and it tries to rapidly regrow the lost solar panels.
So you starve the roots to fix the top.
Yes. If the grass gets away from you, you raise the mower deck to its highest setting, cut off just a little bit, wait 3 days, lower the deck slightly, and cut again.
And keeping those mower blades sharp is part of that trauma reduction too, right?
That's a huge part of it.
If the steel blade is dull, it doesn't cut the grass cleanly, it tears it.
Yep, it leaves a ragged edge.
And a torn, jagged edge on a piece of grass leaks internal moisture significantly faster than a clean surgical cut. Plus, that jagged wound is just an open door for the fungal diseases we were just talking about.
It all comes down to minimizing mechanical trauma, which perfectly aligns with the final piece of advice in the document. Avoid extra physical stress.
Meaning?
If the lawn is visibly drought-stressed and wilting, keep foot traffic off it.
Oh, because of the turgor pressure. If those cellular water balloons are deflated, the plant has no structural bounce.
You've got it. When you step on a fully hydrated grass blade, it bends and springs back. When you step on a severely dehydrated, wilted grass blade, the physical crown of the plant shatters under your weight.
That sounds brutal.
It is. You can leave permanent footprints of dead grass just by walking across a drought-stressed lawn.
It is so interesting looking at the synergy of all these steps. Deep, infrequent watering early in the day, leaving the canopy taller to shade the soil, keeping foot traffic off, holding back completely on the chemical fertilizers and herbicides.
It all works together.
It really does. It's all about recognizing the plant's natural biological rhythms and mimicking the pace of nature. You can't engineer your way out of a 95-degree heat wave with a spreader and a hose. You have to work with the environment. The source has this great line, actually. Healthy lawns don't happen by chance, they happen by choice. And in the summer, the active choice is patience.
Professional turf management relies heavily on observing environmental thresholds. By letting the lawn rest, by intentionally stepping back when the heat is at its worst, you prevent the compounding damage that most homeowners spend their entire autumn trying to fix.
So what does this all mean if we zoom out and look at the big picture of this deep dive?
It means that delaying your treatments, staring at a few weeds, and holding back on the fertilizer until the early fall isn't laziness.
Right. It feels lazy, but it's not.
It is the most scientifically proactive thing you can do. It prevents months of unnecessary physiological recovery.
Because when the temperatures finally cool down and the plant naturally comes out of survival mode, your lawn hasn't been chemically burned. Its osmotic gradient hasn't been reversed by nitrogen salts, and its metabolism hasn't been scrambled by synthetic hormones.
It's ready to wake up and thrive instantly.
It is the definition of working with the weather rather than fighting a losing battle against it. And, looking closely at this philosophy of the art of seasonal rest, it brings up a much broader framework to consider.
Yo, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, we spent this entire time establishing that allowing a complex biological system to rest and intentionally, strategically ignoring the visual imperfections like weeds during a high-stress season makes the entire ecosystem far more resilient in the long run.
Yes.
The desperation to perfect the system is actually what destroys it. So how might we apply that same principle of strategic neglect to other areas of our lives?
Oh, wow. That is a great question.
Right. When the ambient, quote-unquote, heat is turned up in our careers and our daily habits, or during highly stressful seasons of personal life, where else might we be causing more damage by desperately trying to force growth and apply a quick fix, when what we really need is just permission to rest, accept a few weeds, and simply survive the season?
Strategic neglect.
Yeah.
Just giving ourselves permission to simply survive the high heat seasons without forcing growth. I love that.
It really reframes things, doesn't it? And that is a perfect provocative thought to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you look out the window this July and see a few weeds or some tired grass, just remember the marathon runner in the sauna.
Have a break.
Put the fertilizer away, leave the mower in the garage, grab a cold drink, and go enjoy the summer heat from the shade, entirely guilt-free.
Thank you for listening to the Pain in the Grass podcast, sponsored by Lawn Pride of North Charlotte, Huntersville. Your go-to name in turf care for homeowners and businesses seeking beauty, quality, and reliability. Powered by family and fueled by passion. Until next time, make sure to take care of that pain in the grass.